Hand over all company property, he demanded after I was fired. I smiled and gave them the keys to the building. An hour later, the CEO called me, screaming, "Why is there an eviction notice taped to my office door?" Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. That moment still gives me chills. Not because I was scared, but because for once, the powerful man who thought he owned everything finally realized he owned nothing. My name's Sophia Carter, and for the past 7 years, I'd worked for Westbrook Innovations, a fast-growing tech firm in downtown Chicago. I was the operations manager, the one who kept the company running, while the executives took the credit. I didn't mind it at first. I loved my job, I loved my team, and I believed in the company's mission. But as the years went by, I noticed something strange. The higher-ups got richer, and the people who did the real work got pushed out. Bonuses disappeared, workloads doubled, and layoffs became a monthly ritual. Still, I stayed. I worked late nights, covered for mistakes made by the CEO's son, and even handled the messy paperwork that could have gotten the company fined. I thought loyalty mattered. I was wrong. It all started on a Monday morning, bright and cold, when I walked into the office to find an HR email titled, "Meeting at 9 a.m., attendance required." That's never good news. When I entered the conference room, I saw Gregory Westbrook, the CEO himself, sitting across from HR. He didn't even look at me when I sat down. "Let's make this quick," he said, flipping through some papers. "Sophia, your services are no longer required. You're being terminated effective immediately." My heart dropped. Terminated? For what? He finally looked up, smirking. "Restructuring. You've been replaced by someone with more innovative ideas." Translation: his nephew. A 25-year-old fresh graduate who couldn't spell operations if his life depended on it. I swallowed hard, keeping my voice calm. "I've given 7 years to this company. You could have at least had the decency to tell me in person." Gregory leaned back, his grin widening. "You're lucky we're not pressing charges after the mess you left in the finance department." Mess? I was the one cleaning up their mess for years. But I didn't argue. That's what he wanted, a reaction. Something to make me look emotional, unprofessional. Instead, I smiled. "Understood." "Good," he said, sliding a paper across the table. "Now, hand over all company property, keys, access cards, passwords. Everything." I took a slow breath. My mind was already spinning, connecting dots he didn't even know existed. "Of course," I said softly. "You'll have it all." I stood up, placed my company keycard and building keys on the table and walked out of that office with my head held high. Gregory thought he'd humiliated me. He had no idea what was coming. See, Westbrook Innovations wasn't just his company. The building we all worked in? It wasn't owned by the company, it was leased. And guess who owned the property?
Me.
3 years earlier, when Gregory decided to expand, he needed a new office building. The company didn't have the credit for a lease, so he'd used my name and investment as a guarantor, promising me a stake in the profits as repayment. Of course, the profits never came. He conveniently forgot that deal, but the lease was still in my name. So when he fired me that morning, he unknowingly fired the person who owned the roof over his head. I remember driving home that day, my hands shaking, not from sadness, but from the rush of poetic justice. I called my lawyer. "Laura," I said, "I think it's time we terminate a lease." Her laugh echoed through the phone. "You mean their lease?" "Oh yes," I said, smiling. "Effective immediately." I hung up, looked out my car window at the skyline of Chicago, and whispered to myself, "You wanted your company, Gregory? Let's see how it runs without a roof." The day after I was fired, my phone didn't stop buzzing, messages from coworkers, clients, even suppliers. Everyone was shocked. "How could they fire you? You basically ran the company." Gregory's lost it. I smiled at the texts but didn't reply. They didn't know what I was about to do. That evening, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by boxes of old files, lease documents, and contracts that I'd kept, just in case. I had a habit of saving everything, even after Gregory insisted that paper trails are unnecessary. Turns out, those paper trails were about to destroy him. At the top of the stack sat the lease agreement from 3 years ago, my signature, his signature, and the clause that gave me full control over termination and renewal rights. The company didn't own the building. They rented it from SC Holdings, LLC, my small property company. And SC stood for Sophia Carter. When Gregory's lawyers drafted the paperwork, they thought SC Holdings was just a random investor group. They never checked who was behind it, and I'd let them believe that. Now, the game was on. I called Laura, my lawyer, and one of the few people who knew about my arrangement. Time to pull the plug, I told her. She chuckled. You want to evict them right away? Oh yes, I said. They wanted me gone effective immediately, remember? Let's give them the same courtesy. The next morning, I went to the property management office. The building's superintendent, Mark, looked surprised to see me. Sophia? Everything okay? Oh, everything's perfect, I said sweetly. I just need to file a notice of lease termination for Westbrook Innovations. Effective in 30 days. They've violated multiple clauses, including unauthorized occupancy after staff dismissal. He blinked. You mean the main tenant? Exactly, I replied. Make sure they get the official eviction notice on their main office door by noon tomorrow. He hesitated. You sure about this? That'll cause chaos. I smiled. That's the idea. Later that night, I sat at my kitchen table, sipping coffee and watching the city lights. I couldn't help but think about how easily they discarded me. No gratitude, no warning, just humiliation. Gregory had made a show of it too. Word spread fast through the company that he'd fired the old guard to bring in fresh minds. He bragged about it in board meetings. But what he didn't realize was that those fresh minds didn't know the systems I'd built. They didn't know that every utility, every vendor contract, every IT login went through me and my personal authorizations. By 10 p.m., I had a list. A quiet, surgical strike. First, I called the internet provider. Hi, this is Sophia Carter. I'm the authorized account holder for Westbrook Innovations broadband service. I'd like to schedule termination effective end of the week. Then the security company. Deactivate all keycards under the company name by Friday. Then cleaning services, parking management, office catering, and even the coffee machine supplier. Each call ended the same way. Yes, Ms. Carter. We'll process that right away. By the end of the night, Gregory's empire was standing on paper legs, and I had the matches. The next day, I met my old team for lunch. They looked tired, stressed, and scared. How's everything over there? I asked casually. Terrible, said Lena, my former assistant. Since you left, nothing works. Payroll got delayed, invoices are missing, and Greg's nephew crashed the system trying to update the software. I bit back a grin. That's awful, I said softly. Greg's been shouting at everyone, Lena continued. He keeps saying he'll have everything running again soon, but honestly, it's chaos. I leaned forward. Lena, when I'm done, he'll wish chaos was the worst of his problems. That night, I sat at my desk, drafting the final piece of the plan, the official notice. I wanted it clean, legal, and undeniable. Dear Mr. Westbrook, this letter serves as formal notification of lease termination for the premises located at 1800 North Dearborn Street, Chicago, Illinois. Due to multiple violations and unpaid maintenance invoices, SC Holdings LLC is reclaiming possession of the property effective immediately. Sincerely, Sophia Carter, Managing Partner, SC Holdings LLC. I printed it, folded it neatly, and slipped it into an envelope. Then, I attached a bright orange eviction sticker on the front, the kind that can be seen from across the street. The next morning, I stopped by the building. The security guard greeted me like old times, unaware that this visit would be unforgettable. I walked up to the CEO's office, took a deep breath, and taped the notice to the door. As I stepped back and looked at the bright orange paper shining in the hallway light, I smiled. You wanted me gone, Greg, I whispered. Now it's your turn. And with that, I walked away, calm, composed, and satisfied. I didn't have to shout. I didn't have to threaten. All I had to do was let the paperwork speak. The call came at exactly 9:17 a.m. I was having breakfast, sipping on my coffee, when my phone buzzed. The caller ID said Gregory Westbrook. I let it ring twice before answering. Good morning, Gregory, I said, calm as ever. Sophia, he shouted. What the hell did you do? I smiled faintly. I'm not sure what you mean. You'll have to be more specific. Don't play dumb with me, he barked. There's a bright orange eviction notice taped to my office door. My staff are freaking out, the board's calling me nonstop, and the building manager says it came from your property company. What is going on? I took another sip of coffee. Oh, that notice? It's perfectly legitimate. Your company violated several clauses of the lease agreement, including unauthorized changes in management structure and failure to maintain payment records. You know, the boring legal stuff you never cared to read. You can't do that, he roared. You can't just… Greg, I interrupted softly. I can. I'm the property owner. Silence. For a moment, all I heard was his ragged breathing. You're the what? He said slowly. I'm the owner, Greg, I repeated. SC Holdings LLC. You've been renting from me since day one. There was another pause. Then a low growl. You manipulative little. Careful, I said sweetly. You're already on thin ice, and I'd hate for this conversation to be recorded. He hung up. I sat back, savoring the moment. 3 years of loyalty, dedication, and hard work, erased by a 15-second firing. But now, the tables had turned. Over the next few hours, the storm began. Emails started pouring in from HR, accounting, even Gregory's secretary. Everyone wanted answers. Apparently, after the notice went up, half the staff refused to come in. They thought the company was shutting down. Vendors paused deliveries, clients started pulling contracts, and the board demanded an emergency meeting. By noon, the once untouchable Westbrook Innovations was falling apart piece by piece. And I wasn't even done yet. At around 1 p.m., I received another call, this time from Laura, my lawyer. You're not going to believe this, she said, laughing. Gregory just sent me a legal notice demanding reinstatement of the lease. Oh, really? I replied. What was his argument? That you maliciously deceived him and the company by hiding your ownership, she said between chuckles. I told him that's not deception, it's due diligence. His lawyers should have checked the contract before signing. I couldn't help laughing too. Let him burn money on legal threats. The more noise he makes, the more the board will panic. Already happening, Laura said. 2 major investors pulled out this morning. They don't trust his leadership anymore. I smiled. Perfect. Meanwhile, Gregory was losing his mind. He tried to rally his staff, but word spread quickly that Sophia, the woman he fired, owned their building. When the employees found out, most of them sided with me. They remembered how I'd fought for fair wages, how I stayed late to fix their systems, how I treated them like people, not tools. And now, seeing their arrogant boss crumble, it was poetic justice. By evening, the company's website went down. The IT department had accidentally deleted the main server trying to fix a system error. All the old passwords, my passwords, were locked under 2-factor authentication only I could access. Gregory called again. This time, his voice was shaking. Sophia, please, we can talk about this. I admit I was out of line. Maybe we can work something out. Work something out? I repeated slowly. Greg, I gave you 10 years of my life. I built that company. And you humiliated me in front of everyone. Why should I help you now? He stammered. Because if you don't, the board will remove me. I'll lose everything. I paused for effect. Gregory, I think you already have. Then I hung up. The next day, I drove by the building. The orange eviction notice was still there, bright, bold, and impossible to miss. The parking lot, once full, was half empty. Inside, I saw employees packing up boxes, muttering under their breath. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. But I did stop by the front desk, where Mark, the building superintendent, smiled at me knowingly. You really did it, huh? He said quietly. I nodded. They thought I was disposable. I just reminded them who really held the keys. He laughed. I'll bet Greg's losing his mind. Oh, he is, I said. But the best part's yet to come. That evening, Gregory sent me one final email. Sophia, I'm begging you. Please rescind the eviction notice. I'll reinstate your position, double your salary, whatever you want.
Just don't do this.
I read it twice, then hit delete. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about respect, the one thing he'd never given me. As I closed my laptop, I thought about all those nights I'd stayed late fixing his mistakes, all those mornings I came in early to make him look good. And now, he was finally seeing what life was like without me holding it all together. By Friday morning, the company had officially shut down operations. Employees were told to work from home until further notice, but everyone knew it was over. The building was silent, and as I stood on my balcony, watching the sunrise, my phone buzzed again, this time with a message from one of the board members. Sophia, we'd like to discuss an opportunity with you. Privately. I smiled. Revenge wasn't just sweet, it was profitable. By Monday morning, Westbrook Innovations was no longer a company, it was chaos wrapped in silence. The once busy lobby was empty. The glowing company logo had been pulled from the wall. Boxes of files, monitors, and cables littered the floor. I didn't go there in person, I didn't need to. Everything that happened next played out in the news, online, and in the boardroom where Gregory's world fell apart. It started with a viral headline. Tech CEO evicted from his own headquarters amid scandal. The story spread fast. Journalists dug up public records, the lease, the ownership papers, the eviction filing, all showing that the property was under SC Holdings LLC. And when they traced it back to me, the former operations manager he'd fired, they ran with it. Fired employee evicts CEO from his own office building. Woman takes poetic revenge after wrongful termination. My phone exploded with messages. Old colleagues, university friends, even strangers from LinkedIn, everyone wanted to talk to me. Some called me a hero. Others called me ruthless. I didn't care what they called me. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. Meanwhile, Gregory was drowning. I heard from one of my contacts that the board had called an emergency meeting without him. Apparently, after the eviction scandal broke, their biggest investor pulled out, and the company's shares dropped 32% overnight. By the end of the day, the board voted unanimously to remove him as CEO. That's when I got the call, not from Gregory but from Thomas Hale, the board chairman. Miss Carter, he began, his voice calm but heavy. We'd like to make you an offer. I raised an eyebrow. An offer?
Yes.
The board recognizes your contribution to the company's success. We're dissolving Westbrook Innovations and restructuring under new management. We'd like to bring you on as a partner in the new venture. For a moment, I didn't speak. A partner. In the very company that fired me. I took a slow breath. And Gregory? Effective immediately, he's been terminated, Hale said flatly. His misconduct and negligence have cost us millions. Frankly, we should have listened to you years ago. I smiled to myself. Oh, I don't disagree. He cleared his throat. We'll make the announcement tomorrow. Of course, your name will be kept private for now, given the media attention. That's fine, I replied. But I have one condition. Yes, I want complete ownership of the building. No more leasing. There was a pause. Then he said, consider it done. That night, I sat in my home office with a glass of red wine and a stack of papers, official transfer documents, new business contracts, and an ownership deed. All of it signed. All of it mine. My phone buzzed again. A text message. Gregory. Congratulations. You got what you wanted. Are you happy now? I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. I didn't want revenge, Greg. I wanted respect. But since you didn't offer it, this was the next best thing. I hit send. Seconds later, the little typing bubble appeared, then vanished. He didn't reply. The next morning, I woke up to find another headline trending. Disgraced CEO Gregory Westbrook seen leaving headquarters with boxes as former employee buys company building. The photo attached said it all. Gregory, red-faced, shoving a box of papers into his car as reporters surrounded him. Behind him, the building he once ruled was now under my name. Social media exploded with comments like, "That's karma with interest." Never underestimate the woman who knows your passwords. Sophia Carter, Queen of Corporate Revenge. I laughed so hard my sides hurt. I wasn't just the woman they fired anymore. I was the woman they'd never forget. But the true climax came a week later, during a televised business forum where Gregory tried to defend himself. He sat on stage, sweating under the lights, facing a panel of reporters. It was a misunderstanding, he insisted. Our former employee, Miss Carter, exaggerated certain details. Mr. Westbrook, one reporter cut in. Are you saying the eviction notice, the lease records, and your termination were fabricated? He stuttered. I'm saying it's more complicated than it looks. The moderator interrupted. Would you like to explain why your company was found to have unpaid property taxes under her name? He froze. The cameras zoomed in on his face, pale, trembling, exposed. The clip went viral within hours. By the end of the day, Gregory had become a laughingstock. Memes flooded the internet. CEO of nothing trended for 2 days straight. And me? I stayed silent. I didn't need to defend myself. The truth did that for me. That night, I drove by the building one last time. The lights were back on, the nameplate outside had been replaced, and the staff, my former team, were inside working again under new management. I parked for a minute, watching through the glass. Then I whispered to myself, "You took everything from me, Gregory. So I took the ground from under your feet." And with that, I drove away, knowing I'd finally reclaimed everything he'd stolen from me and more. A month after everything went down, the world had moved on, but Gregory hadn't. The last I heard, he sold his car, his house, and tried to start a new consulting firm. But no investor would touch him. His name was toxic in the business world now, synonymous with arrogance and failure. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My company, Carter and Hale Enterprises, had taken over the same office building that once bore the Westbrook logo. The same desks, the same walls, but a completely new energy. Walking through those glass doors for the first time as owner felt surreal. The receptionist, a young woman who once worked under Gregory, looked up and smiled. "Morning, Miss Carter." I smiled back. "Just Sophia, please." The staff clapped as I entered the main floor, the same people who'd watched me get escorted out months earlier. Now they were back under a boss who actually cared about them. "First rule," I said, looking around the room. "Nobody here gets treated like they don't matter. We work together, we win together. Deal?" "Deal," they cheered. It was poetic. The same space that once humiliated me had now become a symbol of respect, fairness, and second chances. That afternoon, as the sunlight streamed through the windows, I sat at my new desk, Gregory's old one, ironically. The surface was still scratched from his gold watch, and I could almost hear his condescending tone echoing in the room. But instead of bitterness, I felt peace. I picked up a pen, signed the final property documents transferring full ownership to my name, and said quietly, "Full circle." Just then, my phone buzzed, a message from my lawyer, Laura. "Congratulations, boss. It's officially yours." I texted back, "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself." That night, I went to dinner with my closest friends to celebrate. As we toasted, one of them, Megan, leaned in and said, "You know, you could have walked away quietly. But you didn't. You turned your pain into power." I smiled. "I didn't plan revenge, Megan. I just stopped letting people walk over me." She nodded. Still, that was epic. We all laughed, clinking glasses, and for the first time in years, I wasn't pretending to be fine. I was fine. Later that week, I received an email from someone unexpected, Gregory's former assistant, Hannah. It read, "Sophia, I just wanted to say, thank you. I know what Gregory did to you was awful, but what you did, it showed us that justice still exists in the real world. You didn't just get even, you got free." I stared at that last line for a while. You didn't just get even, you got free. And she was right. Revenge wasn't about destroying him anymore. It was about reclaiming myself, my worth, my dignity, my peace. One evening, I found myself standing outside the building again, this time under the golden sunset. The reflection of my company's new name shimmered on the glass doors, Carter and Hale Enterprises. Behind me, the city buzzed, cars honking, people rushing home, life moving forward. I took a deep breath and whispered, "This is what they never taught us, that sometimes walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the beginning of something better." Weeks turned into months. The company grew faster than anyone expected. We landed 2 massive contracts, hired back employees who'd been laid off, and even won a local Business of the Year award. At the ceremony, a reporter asked me, "Sophia, after everything you've been through, what's your biggest takeaway?" I smiled into the camera. Never underestimate the quiet ones. The people you look down on today might own your tomorrow. The crowd clapped, and I felt that familiar warmth in my chest, not pride, but gratitude. After the event, I went home, poured myself a glass of wine, and looked at an old framed photo from years ago, the entire team smiling during our first product launch. I traced my younger self in the photo, standing in the corner, smiling politely. I whispered softly, "You made it." Because she had. The girl who once got fired without a reason now ran her own empire. The woman who once handed over her keys in silence now held the entire building in her name. It wasn't luck. It was growth. And maybe a little bit of justice. The next morning, as I left for work, my phone buzzed again. Another news alert. Former CEO Gregory Westbrook declares bankruptcy.
I didn't smile this time. I didn't need to. Some things simply complete themselves.
I looked out my window at the rising sun, turned off the phone, and said quietly, "Goodbye, Gregory." Then I walked into my building, my company, my story, my peace. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. If someone tries to break you, remember, you don't need to fight with anger. Just grow so much that your success becomes the silence they can't ignore. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Revenge Files for more powerful revenge stories every week.